The 12th of January 1900, Volume 3. Difference between knowledge of self and humility. Jesus alone can glory in possessing true humility. Finding myself in my usual state, my adorable Jesus came in a pitiful state. He had his hands bound tightly, his face covered with spit, and many people were slapping him horribly. And he remained quiet, placid, without making one movement or emitting one lament, not even a batting of eyelashes, in order to show that he himself wanted to suffer these outrages. And this not only externally but also internally. What a moving scene, such as to break the hardest hearts. How many things that face said, with that spit hanging, dirtied with mud. I felt horrified, I trembled. I saw myself all pride before Jesus. While he was in that appearance, he said to me, "My daughter, only the little ones let themselves be handled as one wants, not those who are little of human reason, but those who are little yet filled with divine reason. I alone can say that I am humble, because in man, that which is said to be humility should rather be called knowledge of self, and one who does not know himself already walks in falsehood." Jesus remained silent for a few minutes, and I stayed there, contemplating him. While I was doing this, I saw a hand carrying a light, which, searching in my interior in the most intimate and hiding places, wanted to see whether knowledge of myself and love of humiliations, confusions and opprobriums were present in me. That light found a void in my interior, and I saw it too, which had to be filled with humiliations and confusions in the example of blessed Jesus. Oh, how many things that light and that holy face which was before me made me understand. I said to myself, a God humiliated and confused for love of me, and I, a sinner without these insignia. A God stable, firm in bearing so many insults, to the point that he does not move, not one bit, to shake that disgusting spit off of himself. His interior before God and his exterior before man are made manifest to me. And yet if he wanted to free himself, he could, because it is not the chains that bind him, but his firm will, which wants to save mankind at any cost. And I, where are my humiliations? Where the firmness, the constancy in doing good for love of my Jesus and for love of my neighbour? How different we are as victims, myself and Jesus. We are not similar at all. While my little brain was wandering in this, my adorable Jesus told me, only my humanity was filled with opprobriums and humiliations to the point that they overflowed outside. This is why heaven and earth tremble before my virtues, and the souls who love me use my humanity as a staircase in order to ascend and lap up a few little drops of my virtues. Tell me now, before my humility, where is yours? I alone can glory in possessing true humility. My divinity, united to my humanity, could operate prodigies at each step, word and work. Yet I voluntarily constrained myself within the circle of my humanity. I showed myself as the poorest, and I reached the point of mingling with sinners themselves. I could have done the work of redemption in very little time, and even with one single word. Yet, during the course of many years, with many hardships and sufferings, I wanted to make the miseries of man my own. I wanted to exercise myself in many different actions, so that man might be completely renewed and divinized. even in the lowest works. In fact, once they had been exercised by me, who was God and man, they received new splendour and remained with the mark of divine works. My divinity, hidden within my humanity, wanted to lower itself to such baseness, subjecting itself to the course of human actions, while with one single act of my will I could have created infinite worlds. Feeling the miseries and the weaknesses of others as if they were its own, seeing itself covered with all the sins of men before divine justice, having to pay their penalty at the price of unheard of pains and of the shedding of all its blood. Thus it exercised continuous acts of profound and heroic humility. O daughter, here is the immense difference between my humility and the humility of creatures, even that of all my saints, which is only a shadow in the face of mine, because the creature is always a creature and does not know, as I know, how great is the weight of sin. Even though heroic souls, following my example, have offered themselves to suffer the pain of others, their pains are not different from those of the other creatures. They are not new things for them, because they are made of the same clay. Moreover, the mere thought that those pains are the cause of new gains and that they glorify God is a great honour for them. Furthermore, the creature is restricted within the circle in which God placed her, and she cannot go out of those limits. She has been circumscribed by God. Oh, if it were in their power to do or undo things, how many other things they would do. Everyone would reach the stars. But my divinized humanity had no limits, yet it voluntarily constrained itself within itself. And this was the braiding of all my works with heroic humility. This had been the cause of all evils which inundate the earth, lack of humility, and by exercising this virtue, I was to draw all goods from divine justice. Ah, yes, no concessions of graces came from my throne if not by means of humility, nor can any ticket be received by me if it does not carry the signature of humility. No prayer is listened to by my ears and moves my heart to compassion if it is not perfumed by the fragrance of humility. If the creature does not arrive at destroying that seed of honour, of esteem, and this can be destroyed by arriving at loving to be despised, humiliated, confused, she will feel a braiding of thorns around her heart. She will feel a void in her heart, which will always bother her and render her very dissimilar from my most holy humanity. If she does not arrive at loving humiliations, at the most she will be able to know herself a little, but will not shine before me, clothed with the garment of humility, beautiful and worthy of sympathy. Who can say how many things I understood about this virtue and the difference between knowledge of self and humility? I seem to touch with my own hand the distinction between these two virtues, but I have no words to explain myself. In order to say something, I will use an image. For example, a poor man says he is poor, and he frankly manifests his poverty also to people who do not know him and who may believe that he possesses something. One can say that he knows himself and tells the truth, and because of this he is loved more. He moves others to compassion for his miserable state, and everyone helps him. So it is to know oneself. If then, feeling ashamed of manifesting his poverty, that poor man boasted of being rich, while everyone knows it, that he does not even have clothes to cover himself, and that he is dying of starvation, what happens? Everyone despises him, nobody helps him, and he becomes an object of mockery and ridicule to anyone who knows him. And the miserable one, going from bad to worse, ends up dying. So is pride before God and also before other men. And here is how one who does not know himself already leaves the truth and slumps into the path of falsehood. Now, here is the difference with humility, though it seems to me that knowledge of self and humility are sisters born of the same womb, and one can never be humble if he does not know himself. For example, there is a rich man who, out of love for humiliations, stripping himself of his noble garments, covers himself with miserable rags. He lives unknown, manifesting to no one who he is. He mingles with the poorest. He lives with the poor as if he were one of them, and makes scorns and confusions his delights. Here is the beautiful sister of the knowledge of self, which is humility. Ah, yes, humility draws grace. Humility breaks the strongest chains, which are sin. Humility surmounts any wall of division between the soul and God and brings her back to Him. Humility is a little plant, but always green and flowery, not subject to being gnawed by worms, nor will winds, hail, or heat be able to do harm to it or make it wither even slightly. Though being the littlest plant, humility produces very high branches, which penetrate even into heaven, braiding around the heart of our Lord. And only the branches which come from this plant have free access into that adorable heart. Humility is the anchor of peace during the storms of the sea waves of this life. Humility is the salt which spices all virtues and preserves the soul from the corruption of sin. Humility is the little grass which sprouts along the way, treaded by wayfarers. While being treaded, it disappears, but soon one can see it sprout again, more beautiful than before. Humility is like a gentle graft, which renders the wild plant gentle. Humility is the sunset of guilt. Humility is the newborn of grace. Humility is like the moon, which guides us in the darkness of the night of this life. Humility is like that shrewd merchant who knows well how to trade his riches and wastes not even 1 cent of the grace that is given to him. Humility is the key of the door of heaven, such that no one can enter into it if he does not keep this key in good custody. Finally, otherwise I would never end and I would be too long. Humility is the smile of God and of all of heaven, and it is the crying of all hell. End of the reading. The 12th of January 1902, Volume 4, The Blindness of Men. Jesus speaks about divorce. Contradictions are precious pearls. It seems that my adorable Jesus continues to come a little bit. This morning, then, transporting me outside of myself, he showed me the great evils of society and his great bitternesses, and he poured into me abundantly part of what embittered him. Then he said to me, "My daughter, see now where the blindness of men has reached, to the point of wanting to make laws which are iniquitous and go against themselves and their own social welfare. My daughter, this is why I am calling you to sufferings again, so that as you offer yourself with me to divine justice, those who must fight this law of divorce may obtain light and efficacious grace in order to be victorious. My daughter, I tolerate that they make wars and revolutions and that the blood of the new martyrs inundate the world. This is an honour for me and for my church. But this brutal law is an affront to my church, and it is abominable and intolerable to me." Now, while he was saying this, I saw a man who was fighting against this law, tired and exhausted in his strengths, in the act of wanting to withdraw from the enterprise. So, together with the Lord, we encouraged him, and he answered, I see myself almost fighting alone and unable to obtain the intent. And I said to him, "Courage, for contradiction are as many pearls which the Lord will use to adorn you in heaven." And he took to heart and continued the enterprise. After this I saw someone else, all wearied and concerned, not knowing what to decide, and someone saying to him, "Do you know what you should do? Get out of Rome." And he, "No, I cannot. This is the word given to my Father. I will lay down my life, but as for getting out, never." Afterwards we withdrew. Jesus disappeared, and I found myself inside myself. End of the reading. The 12th of January 1916, Volume 11, Current and Future Chastisements of the Nations, in particular of Italy. I was lamenting with blessed Jesus because of his usual privations, and I was crying bitterly. My adorable Jesus came, but in a sorrowful state, showing how things will get worse and worse. This made me cry more, and Jesus told me, "My daughter, you cry for the present times, and I cry for the future. Oh, in what a maze will the nations find themselves, to the extent of one becoming the terror and the massacre of the other, and of being unable to get out by themselves. They will do things as though crazy and blind, to the point of acting against themselves. And the maze which poor Italy is in, how many shocks she will receive. Remember how many years ago I told you that she deserved the chastisement of being invaded by foreign nations? And this is the conspiracy that they are weaving for her. How humiliated and annihilated will she remain. Too ungrateful has she been with me. The nations for which I had predilection, Italy and France, are those which denied me the most. They held hands in offending me. Fair chastisement, they will hold hands in being humiliated, and they will also be the ones who will start war against the church. Ah, my daughter, almost all nations united to offend me. They plotted against me. What wrong did I do them? Almost all of them deserve chastisement. But who can say the sorrow of Jesus, the state of violence in which he was, and also my fright? Out of fear, I said to my Jesus, "How can I live in the midst of so many tragedies? Let me be the victim, save the people, or take me with you." End of the reading. The 12th of January 1932, Volume 30, Round in the Divine Will. Pledges, advances and contracts on the part of creatures. Capital on the part of the Creator. Echo that the divine will forms in creatures. According to my usual way, I was doing the round in the acts done by the divine will. I felt that in it and with it I could embrace everything, remember everything, look at everything of what the divine will had done. It was the infinite theatre that presented itself before my little mind, that with divine and innumerable scenes let me taste unspeakable sweetnesses and the most beautiful, enchanting scenes that the power of the divine fiat had put forth in the round of creation, redemption and sanctification. It seems that it is a round that has been made in the course of the centuries, and in this round so many beautiful and marvellous things were done, as to amaze heaven and earth. And this round was made in order to let us make the round of our going around, in order to let us know how much it can do, and knows how to do, for our love. So, while I went around in the infinite round of the divine volition, my lovable Jesus, visiting his little newborn, told me, "If you knew how much I enjoy seeing you go around in the infinite round of my supreme fiat, and in seeing you stop as surprised before its prodigies, its admirable and adorable works, its enchanting and enrapturing scenes. In the ardour of my love I say, how content I am that my daughter is spectator and enjoys the admirable scenes of he who has created her. But this is not enough. You must know that in order to acquire a property, there is needed one who must cede it, must give it to the one who would take it, the freedom to visit it, of leading her as though by the hand, in order to make known to her all the goods that there are, the fountains that it possesses, the rarity and preciousness of the plants, the fertility of the earth. And this serves in order to infatuate the one who would acquire it. And for the one who would acquire it, it is necessary that she make the advances and have the contracts drawn in order to bind he who would cede the property, so that he would not be able to get out of it. Now, blessed daughter, wanting to give the kingdom of my divine will, it is necessary that you go around in its divine properties, and I, leading you by the hand, make known to you its interminable seas, the goods, the prodigies, the surprising wonders, the joys, the happinesses, all the things of infinite value that it possesses, so that by knowing it you love it, and you would fall in love so much that you would not only not know how to live without it, but would give your life in order to acquire a kingdom so holy, peaceful, and beautiful. But this is not yet everything. Your part is needed, your pledges, your advances and contracts. And our love and goodness is so much that it wants to give our will as property, that it belongs to the creature, that it places at her disposition what it has done, so that the creatures might make use of it as equivalent pledges and contracts in order to receive a gift so great. Now, as you go around in creation and look at the sky, and you feel happy in seeing the beautiful azure vault studded with stars, the sun shining with light, and recognize and feel still beating the divine fiat that has created it for love of creatures, and your little love springing forth from your heart loves he who has loved you so much. Your love is sealed in the heights of the sky, in the light of the sun, and you give us the sky for pledge, the stars for advance, the sun for contract, because they were created for you. And it is enough that you possess our will as life, that it is already yours, and can be the valid contract in order to obtain its kingdom. And the same with you as you go around in all the other created things. You would recognize them and love us, and however many times you repeat your going around, so many times you repeat the pledges, you make the contracts, and you arrange to dispose things, to give graces and helps, in order to give as kingdom the great gift of the fiat voluntas tua, as in heaven, so on earth. We know that the creature does not have anything to give us, and our love imposes itself to giving our acts as if they were hers, placing our works in her hands as divine money, so that she would have sufficient means in order to be able to contract with our Supreme Being. But if she doesn't have anything, she has the little love issued from ours in the act of creating her. Therefore she has a particle of the infinite love of God. And when the creature loves us, she places the infinite at attention. We feel the magnetic strength of the particle of our infinite love, that hovering in her loves us, elevates, extends, and reaches even to us, and wants to enter into the infinite from which she came forth. Oh, how she enraptures us, and in the ardour of our love we say, who can resist the strength of our infinite love that issues forth from the creature and loves us? To give heavens and earth seems to us as little in exchange for her little love that, although little, possesses a particle of the infinite, and this is enough for us. Oh, how sweet and dear is the precious pledge of the love of the creature. And since there is nothing in the round of the centuries that has not gone forth from our will, your going around in the creation of man is a visit that you make, in order to know what it worked and in what seas of graces, of sanctity, of love, he was put forth in the act of being created. And you would want to make all yours that love in order to love us, and you contract with us with those same acts with which we created man. And in the same way, when you go around in the creation of the Virgin, in her seas of graces, in my coming on earth, and in everything that I did and suffered, you place yourself in order to contract with the Queen of Heaven, my life itself and all my acts. My will is everything, and in order to give itself to the creature, it wants to be recognized. It wants to have something to do. It wants to negotiate with her, and however more other visits in its acts, so much more it finds itself pledged and contracted with, and it begins the disbursement of its capital. All the truths, the knowledges that I have made you about the divine will, has it not perhaps been capital that I have made in your soul? And it is so exuberating that it can fill the whole entire world with light, with love, with sanctity, with graces, with peace. And has it not perhaps been after a round that you made in its acts that already I was waiting for you, with all love, in order to give you its pledges and advances that its kingdom would come on earth? You gave your pledges, and my fiat gave you its. One can say that every truth and word that was said regarding it were dispositions that it took so as to form this kingdom, draft that it called in order to form its army, capital that it dispersed in order to maintain it, joys and delights in order to attract them, and divine strength in order to conquer them. Because first we do the deeds, we order everything, and then we show and make known what we have done. And as we want to give this good to creatures, it is necessary, just and reasonable that we at least feel one creature with us, so that from the one it passes to another. We do not do our works in the air, but we want a little support for where to form our greatest works. Was not the Queen of Heaven our little support for the great work of redemption that then extended itself to everyone and to whoever wants it? Therefore, let your flight in my will be continuous, so that it exchanges with you your pledges, and it its capitals, in order to hasten its kingdom on the face of the earth. After this I felt more than usual all immersed in the divine fiat, and my sovereign Jesus added, "My daughter, when my divine will works in the soul, it is immediately known. As it works, it extends in the human being gentleness, sweetness, peace, fortitude, firmness. Before that work, it blows and imprints there its omnipotent fiat that extends its heaven around the work that it wants to do. It seems that without its heaven, my will does not know how to work, and while it works, it makes its sweet, harmonious echo resound in the three divine persons, calling them to be acquainted with what it is doing in the soul, because one being in the will of what it was working in her with that of the divine persons, it happens that what it does in the divine persons, it makes its powerful echo resound in the creature. And in this echo, it brings her admirable secrets, ineffable sweetnesses, the inseparable love of how the divine persons love, the sweet accord between themselves. This echo is the bearer of the most intimate things of the Supreme Being into the creature. Where my will is operating, the echo of the one fuses into the other. That from above makes itself divine revealer. That from below, resounding in God, has the virtue of powerfully speaking with divine ways, for the good of creatures, and about the same love that they want from them. My will, with its power, forms the sweet chains, and identifies and transforms God and the creature in a way that God feels remade in the creature, and she feels remade in God. Oh, my will, how very admirable and powerful you are. Your sweet chains extend and bind God and creatures, so that all return to me into my divine bosom. End of the reading. There are no more readings today. Have a blessed day.